Hey, Gabor, we're live.
Okay, good. Bye.
Great. Hey, welcome everyone. So yeah, we had a little bit of a scare because our tool really completely dropped on us. So we had to go to a backup tool. But here it is. We're live. Welcome everyone. Happy to be here with you again. This is day two day three, sorry, of the healing days. Is everything okay in the chat? Can you hear me? Can you hear us? Can you see us? Let us know if everything is working perfectly. All right. So we had more than 30,000 people live overall since the beginning of the healing days. And today we're about 20,000 already. So that's why our tool probably had too much to work on. And yeah, I mean, 20,000 people. Let's think about what 20,000 people mean, right? It's a enormous amount of people. So welcome and very honored to have everyone here. Now, what happened during the first 2 days? So we had day one. We had a brilliant explanation from Tim Fletcher about how trauma happens in the brain, what steps you can take to repair your mind and create the right conditions to change. And then we had a really profound experience from Marissa. We went to see our inner child and create an energy of parenting to our own selves through an incredible vortex meditation. It was a very special moment. I know a lot of people loved it. And yesterday we had an entire course on body-based therapies with Bessel and how to, I think the bottom line was how to create a second nature by building new habits for yourself. And also then we discovered really first steps of the benefits of two experiences, body scanning and the technique of tapping that Bessel walked us through. This was quite a moment for everyone and um, very new. So here is what people said about the first 2 days. We have Amanda. You guys have done so much healing already and in such a brief amount, and it's amazing. And to look at other people's chat, you feel not so alone. I think that's what's comforting for everybody to see so many people in the chat living the same experience and being on this journey together. I really love it personally. We have, for example, Julia, who said, thank you so much for providing this free to so very many people desperate to heal. God bless you. God bless you too, Julia. And let's say Marlene, 100% mind blown. I was expecting a lit, but this first class has been absolutely 100% helpful and insightful. I have learned and enjoyed the advice, the insight, and perspective that's offered in just class one. I can't wait to see how much more mature my heart, mind, body, and soul are as we evolve from. So as you can see, a lot of great feedback. So obviously that's why we do this. So very happy to see that. So just a quick introduction of myself before we get started. I'm the co-founder of Mentor Show. By now, most of you know me, but I still want to introduce myself for the ones who don't. And Mentor Show, we are the organizer of this event. So we've built an app gathering the knowledge and the support you can get to really invest in yourself, to heal your wounds, and more generally to live a happier and healthier life. So we are organizing this event, and it's a free event. some of you will be interested in going deeper and subscribing to the Mentor Show app and mostly the Heal Masterclass from Gabor. So at some point in this conference, we'll take a few minutes in the middle to explain what awaits you in this masterclass. The agenda for today, we're going to go into first part with Gabor, when the heart stops you from healing and why. Then we're going to go into why is the heart the key to healing. And then we've prepared a special writing exercise for you that we'll do all together. After that, Gabor and I are going to take a few minutes to explain the Heal Masterclass that's just launched. And after that, we'll do a Q&A at the end of this session. So people already, now you know the drill. You can obviously ask your questions in the chat. You can start now and all during the whole conference. And the Mentor Show team will gather them. And we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. I apologize in advance because we won't be able to answer everyone. Unfortunately, I can tell you that, but we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. All right, that's it for me. So Gabor, can you start? Yeah, that was better. Can you start by giving a quick introduction of yourself and maybe for some who might not know you?
Sure. Thanks, Leo. And this is the first time in his life that Leo pronounced my name right. So
right, I've been training.
It's a very, very special occasion. So look, I'm a retired medical doctor. I worked for 20 years in family practice, looking after people from birth, delivery, the baby, to death. And I also worked for 7 years in palliative care, looking after people who are dying, usually because of cancer or some chronic disease before their time. And I learned a lot. You learn a lot from dying people, and I'll mention that in a minute. And then for 12 years, I worked in what is North America's most concentrated area of drug use, which is the downtown east side of Vancouver, where we have more people injecting and inhaling, ingesting drugs than anywhere in North America in a few square block radius. In that professional realm, I learned a lot about people, and but equally important has been my own journey, because at some point in midlife, beginning in my early 40s, successful as I was professionally, I was a very unhappy person. I lacked confidence in many aspects of my emotional life, significant issues in my marriage, with my children. Often I felt depressed, and I always had this sense that I have some kind of potential. I didn't know what it was, that I haven't even come close to fulfilling. So that's the second track of learning. The first track of learning is what I observed and saw in clinical practice, and much of what I saw went way beyond what they taught me in medical school. Then there's my own personal journey. At a certain point, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder and also with depression. So I had to think about what all those things are all about. Where did they come from? And then I began to write books, including the first one I wrote, Scattered Minds on Attention Deficit Disorder. I'm not going to go into the details of it now, except in preparing for that book, I had to look at the scientific research. And the scientific research on childhood development, on brain development, on trauma, on the mind-body unity, on how our physiology is inseparable from our psychology. So many of the things that you learned in the last 2 days. But nobody teaches you these things in medical school. Mm-hmm. So that's been my personal trajectory. And then, of course, since then, my work has become quite well known internationally. I travel all over the world, more than I should sometimes, to teach what I know. And I give webinars So here we are. Now, the topic today has to do with the heart. And
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned in the introduction um, a few days ago, um, Tim Fletcher and Marissa Peter were going to talk about the mind, and Bessel yesterday covered the body, and
Mm-hmm.
today I'm talking about the heart. But again, nobody should think for a minute that these things are separated. In
Right.
fact, you have to keep this in mind. We began life as one-celled organisms, and that one-celled organism had the same intention that we do, which is to survive, to nourish ourselves, and to reproduce, and to protect ourselves from the environment and to nourish ourselves. Now, since then, over evolution, we've become multi celled organisms with all these different organs. But that basic unity has never been lost. So when I talk about the heart, I don't want you to think of it in terms of just a pump that's beating away in the middle of your chest. It's far more than that. And the heart, as I said the first day, actually has a nervous system. And many of you have had the experience when you said to yourself, well, we talk about the heart in two ways. Well, three ways, actually. We talk about, I knew it in my heart. So the heart has knowledge. And you did. The heart has a nervous system uh, that actually has some predictive capacities. And it can tell you things before the intellect can tell them to you. So you knew it in your heart. Secondly, we talk about having a broken heart. Well, that's not a physiological event, although there is something called broken heart syndrome, by the way. Sometimes people in the aftermath of a major shock will have a dysregulation of their heart rhythm and they can die. And that's called the broken heart syndrome. And the actress Debbie Reynolds, whose daughter was Carrie Fisher, she died the day after her daughter died, probably of broken heart syndrome. But obviously that has to do with emotional input into the heart, not just an abstract physiological event. And then the third way we talk about heart is in terms of love. Like heart, when we want to express that we love somebody, we send the heart emoji, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So the heart has all kinds of resonances and significances in our lives. Now, my most recent book, if I can advertise myself, is called The Myth of Normal: Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. It's been published in 43 languages around the world. And I'm going to quote you from the Myth of Normal. This is the Greek author, novelist, and author Nikos Kazantzakis. If you saw the movie Zorba the Greek, it's based on one of his books. And he said, the mind cries out, explains, demonstrates, protests, but inside me, a voice rises and shouts at it, be quiet, mind, let us hear the heart. Well, yes, sometimes we have to listen to the heart. And one practice you can do sometimes is when you're not sure about something, put your hand on your heart and ask yourself, what is my heart telling me at this moment? So that's one quote I was going to give you about knowledge in the heart. The second one, and Leo has disappeared for a while. I trust he'll come back. But the
Yeah,
second
I'm
one,
here.
oh, you're here. Okay, I just don't see you. It's from a French novel, or a French little children's book, which I'm sure you know, which is Le Petit Prince, The Little Prince, by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And he said, the little prince says, it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So the reality is, you can look out there in the world and see things happening, but if your heart is closed, you won't see them. We can see that right now in the world. There's some terrible things happening, and people are being subjected to unspeakable suffering. And people can see it with their eyes, but a lot of them don't see it with their hearts. And let me tell you about an experience that I had with the heart. The first time I did this psychedelic plant called ayahuasca, which is a Amazonian plant. I'm not going to go into the story of it, but I was in, for the first time in my life, I was in ayahuasca ceremony. In the tent was a little baby whose father had taken ayahuasca. The mother was there with the baby. The baby was at the mother's breast and being held by the mom. And the baby started cooing and laughing and sometimes crying. And under the impact of the plant, my heart just opened up. And I had tears of love coursing down my face. Tears of love. And boy, I realized how much I had closed my heart because it felt so different when it was open with that little baby cooing away. And all the times in my life, in my relationship to myself and with my children or my spouse or other people, I was coming from a closed heart. And of course, when you close your heart, life becomes very difficult, very unpleasant, very alienating. And then we have to escape from all that. And that's where we can get into all these addictions, for example. And I saw that in a split second. Now, I wish I could tell you that my heart stayed open after that. It did for about 24 hours. But Leo mentioned Bessel talking about habits. The Buddha once talked about habit energies. And habit energies run our lives. And the habit energies, one example he gave, the Buddha, was a man is riding a horse and the horse is galloping away, and people along the way yelling to the man, "Where are you going?" And the man says, "Don't ask me, ask the horse." And those habit energies that are ingrained in us early in life are like the horse that take us all over the place. And one habit energy is the closing of the heart. Now, why do we close the heart? Because when we're small, helpless, vulnerable, defenseless, we got really hurt. And one way not to feel the pain of that is to close the heart. And that's not a conscious decision anybody ever makes. I'm talking about the heart in the metaphorical, emotional, psychological, spiritual sense. That's not a decision anybody makes consciously. It's just something that happens. And then you might not even realize that your heart is closed unless you really start to pay attention to it. So we closed the heart because it was too painful to keep it open. So it was defense. But that same defense, as I'm sure you have heard in the last 2 days, those same defenses that protected us from the immediate pain when we were small and helpless keep us in pain and keep us in difficulty and keep us imprisoned. So opening the heart is one of the ways to liberation. That's why we close it, and that's why we need to open it. And it's work. Let me tell you, it's work. And let me tell you, it's work that I'm still doing. I'm 81 and I'm still working on opening my heart because it's not a one time thing that you open it and now it stays that way. There are these habit energies, there's these defenses of the ego that keeps you shutting down and shutting down and shutting down. So it's ongoing work, but it's rewarding work. And if you start to pay attention to the body, you will know when your heart is open. So
Mm.
I'll say one final thing. I mentioned this learning from dying people. There's a book whose author I met when I was in Australia. Her name is escapes me at the moment, um, but she's a palliative care provider like I was. She was a caregiver, and she wrote a book called "The Top Five Regrets of Dying People." And basically, these are people that were dying of terminal diseases, sometimes before their time, And what did they regret? Is that they'd closed down to themselves and they'd closed down to other people. Much of that has to do with closure of the heart. So if you find that your heart is closed, don't blame yourself. You didn't do it deliberately. It's not a fault. It's just what your organism did to help you survive. But now, if you want freedom, inner freedom and peace, it's on you to do the work to open the heart again.
And how can, for example, how can people see the symptoms of having their heart closed? You mentioned you realized it for yourself, and how can they notice that in themselves?
Well, the quickest way to notice it is by looking at your behaviors and your reactions.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you are interacting with somebody who's close to you
Mm-hmm.
and you're aggressive and you say things later on that you wish you had not said,
Mm-hmm.
that's the time when your heart was closed. Had your
Mm-hmm.
heart open, you would not have behaved in that way. You would not have spoken in that way. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing to note. And when you do that, there's two things you can do. One of them lacks heart towards yourself, and it's to berate yourself and to punish yourself and
Mm-hmm.
to lay all kinds of guilt on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that? But there's another way is why did I do that? In other words, what was going on inside me that I behaved in that way? In other words, the one way is self judgmental, the other way is self compassionate. So you can use the times when you screw up, when you behave in ways that are closed hearted and sometimes cruel or certainly insensitive. And then you can ask yourself, what was going on for me? What did I believe? And usually, you know what the belief was? That you're a helpless victim who has to fight. That's the usual belief. Um, Now, the second way you can notice, and this takes more awareness now, is pay attention to your body. As I'm talking to you now, imagine, or try to remember time in your life when you were hostile and critical and defensive and just behaving in ways that you're not particularly proud of. And what was, if you check in with just remember that incident and what's in your body, what's in your chest, what's in your belly, but particularly what's in your chest, and contrast that to some other time when you may have been generous and kind, when you saw somebody, when you were understanding, and check in with your body at that time. You'll find that your body states are totally different. So if you are conscious and make it a practice to be conscious and aware of your body will tell you whether your heart is open or not. Because when it is, there'll be expansion and peace here.
Mm-hmm.
Deep breathing. When you're closed, there'll be tightness, constriction, and probably shallow breathing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, if we understand, when is your heart the key to healing, and why can compassion be a real cornerstone in your healing?
Well, interestingly, that we're talking about the heart. One of my teachers is a man who's about my age, I think, maybe a year older. His name is A.H. Almas, Almaas. And he's got his own particular school, spiritual, psycho-spiritual school of healing, a wonderful spiritual teacher. And he actually wrote a series of books called the Diamond Heart series. talking about the heart, the Diamond Heart series. And in one of them, he says, and I learned a lot from Amos. And in one of his books, he says, only when compassion is present will people allow themselves to see the truth. So, for you to actually see the truth about yourself, you need to be approached with compassion. So, one of the method of psychotherapy that I teach is called compassionate inquiry. Because if there's no compassion, people will stay defended and your heart will stay closed. And you're not going to learn, you're not going to see the truth about yourself. Because the truth about yourself is sometimes difficult, and sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's uncomfortable. That's if you're like me. And by the way, everybody is. So we're none of us that different. So that compassion, only when compassion is present will people allow themselves to see the truth. That's why we need compassion for others, but also and primarily for ourselves. A lot of people that I know have much less trouble being compassionate towards other people than towards themselves. No, it can go both ways, but that lack of self compassion shows up all the time when I'm working with people.
Mhm. How can people understand the different types of compassion that they can have with themselves and really explore these different types of compassion for themselves?
Yeah, so we use this word compassion, and most of us we know what it means, but I think it's important to look at it a bit more deeply. So I'm just going to give you now my particular view of compassion. Use it if it makes sense to you. Don't use it if it doesn't. It's not the only way to understand or to look at compassion, but it's just the way I look at it. So I look at compassion on 5 different levels. The first is what I call ordinary human compassion. And when I say ordinary, I don't mean anything to be dismissed or anything trivial, but I mean the kind of compassion that most people are capable of at least sometime. Compassion, passion means to suffer, by the way. Calm means with, and compassion means to suffer with. And that simply means when another creature, be it a little bird with a broken leg, be it a dog in pain, or be it another human being, is suffering, you suffer with them. It hurts you, it makes you uncomfortable. That's what I call ordinary human compassion. That's the first level. It's important, but it's not enough. Not if you're trying to help yourself or other people. The second level is what I call the compassion of understanding. And that means it's not sufficient to feel bad at the sight of suffering. You also have to understand what is the source of that suffering. So when I was working with drug addicted clients in Vancouver's downtown east side, I had to ask not only how, I had to ask a question. Yes, it bothered me that they suffered, but the question I had to ask was, why are they suffering? Why are they caught up in these addictions? Why are they pursuing behaviors that actually can kill them and often did? And I'll come back to myself in a minute, but that's what I call the compassion of understanding. So, in the case of drug addiction, when you actually look, or any addiction for that matter, when you look at it, addictions are always attempts to escape from pain. So, my mantra is don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. But that's the compassion of understanding. Because as long as you think that people are choosing to be addicted because they're bad people or stupid people or they have no moral sense or no willpower, you'll never be able to help them. So that's the compassion of understanding. That's the second one. The third one was also my experience in the downtown east side, which is that it didn't take me long to realize that even though my social situation and personal situation and professional and economic situation was very different from my clients, I had in myself the same kind of addictive drives. They were not directed towards drugs in my case, but I had addictive behaviors which caused me to lie and to deny and to turn my back on my personal and professional responsibilities. I was not different in that way than my clients. And here's the thing, nobody is different. It's a question of how honest we're willing to be with ourselves. So that's what I call the compassion of understanding. And that's why when you go to a therapist and they think they're the expert and they don't have a problem, you do, but they don't. And they don't have this compassion of recognition. That's what I call it, the compassion of recognition. They can't help you. They can't help you. And that's the third level. The fourth level of compassion, and you know what? It escapes me at the moment. So let me give me a second here, and I'll look in my own book and find out what is this fifth level. Oh yeah, here it is. Fourth level of compassion. So the compassion of recognition. Oh yeah, the compassion of truth. What does that mean? When you're doing therapeutic work, either as a professional with others or you're the client, some painful stuff is going to come up. In fact, if it doesn't come up, not that we should cause anybody pain, but if the pain never comes up, you're probably not going deep enough. It's that simple. And we must not be afraid of pain, because if the truth is that there's pain there, then we have to be able to look at that pain and to understand it and to come to terms with it. And that's what I call the compassion of truth, is that we're willing to look at reality the way it actually is, not the way we would wish to imagine it, or the way that we told ourselves it was as kids because we couldn't face the truth, because how could we possibly face the truth when we're helpless and defenseless and alone? So that's the compassion of truth, is the willingness to look at how it is. And for example, but this is a very obvious example, far from the only one. Let's say you're in a relationship where you're not honored and you're not seen and you're not understood. And you really worked hard at it. Well, the truth might be that you can't be in that relationship. I'm not saying that is the truth necessarily, but it could be. Well, that's the compassion of truth, is that if you don't face the pain of separation, you keep yourself in a situation that makes you stressed, depressed, and sick. So the compassion of truth says, what is the truth here? Ideally, in a relationship, both partners are committed to the truth. And then the fifth level of compassion is what I call the compassion of possibility, which is simply this. If I saw my drug addicted clients simply through the lens of their demeanor, their bodies, which are often broken, their faces, which are often lined and scarred, their expressions, which are often suspicious or hostile, or if I saw myself as my demeanor when I'm in a bad mood, or I'm in a hostile mood, or when I'm being totally egotistical, which I'm quite capable of being. But if I saw myself as that's me or that's them, we're not seeing anybody for who they are. Because underneath all that is a true self. that wants to love, whose heart can be open, who is much more than how we present and show up in our behaviors and our words. And the compassion of possibility sees that true person underneath the demeanor, underneath the behavior, underneath the body language. And when you can see people in a way that they can't see themselves, you're giving them a gift. And when you can see yourself in a way that you don't usually see yourself, but you see your possibility, you see your truth, you see your heart,
Mhm.
then you're giving yourself a huge gift. And that's what I call the compassion of possibility.
Mhm. Mhm. A question that the audience might have now is when they feel like their pain keep repeating, when they feel in those moments where trauma hijacks their emotional response and really sabotage their choices, how can they use these compassions to help them get out of these patterns?
Well, sometimes you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, my own experience is that when the old stuff takes me over, it doesn't matter how much I know,
Mm-hmm.
all the books that I've written, all the hundreds of lectures I've given all in the world, all the clients that I've worked with, it all disappears. There are such moments. In such moments is when you have to reach for an emergency kit. In,
Mm-hmm.
in in the heal program that we developed, Leo and I, there's an emergency kit. But this is
Right.
also where Bessel talked to you about yesterday. That's the moment to start tapping. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
step out of that mode for a minute and just do something. Tap, take conscious breaths. One thing I'm learning to do these days is several times a day I do some conscious breathing. I won't teach you the specific breathing technique right now, but just tapping, conscious breath, move, go for a walk, do something. So
Right,
that
the 478 that we had
yeah,
in the course as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
right, the 478 breathing that Dr.
Yeah.
Andrew Weil teaches.
Uh-huh.
Um, so these compassions that I've just outlined for you, sometimes there are moments when you can't get access to them. That's the time to do something in an emergency basis,
Mm-hmm.
things that we just mentioned. And then when you calm down, then you come back to these compassions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we thought maybe we go to the practical part, Gabor, or you want to keep diving a little bit into this cornerstone as the compassion and the heart.
No, I think in a brief sense,
Mm-hmm.
I've told you what I can about it. I mean, it would take I could talk for an hour, of course, or two, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think I've summed it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there is an exercise that is in the myth of normal that we also teach in the HEAL program, the mentorship program that Leo and I developed. And there's 5 steps there that you could learn right now. You never
Mm-hmm.
have to read the book, you never have to buy the program if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you could do these 5 steps. I think that would help you. So you can take notes on this if you want, and I can go through them with you. Would that be okay,
Right.
Leo?
Yeah, perfect. And I think what we would like to suggest to you is that we do these 5 steps together, and there's going to be 5 different questions, if I might say, and you answer them in the chat so that we can sort of see your answers and trying to use all this theory that we learned about compassion just now.
Okay. So these 5 steps, actually, I did not originate them. I borrowed them with his permission from a psychiatrist at UCLA called Jeffrey Schwartz. And Dr. Schwartz worked with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And he developed these 4 steps. I added a 5th one um, for people to, as an awareness practice for people with OCD. Then I asked him, listen, Professor Schwartz, Dr. Schwartz, can I apply this to addiction? And he said, yeah. And Then I had a chapter on that in my addiction book. And then I realized that we can use this not just with addiction book, not just with OCD or with addiction, but with any repetitive um, or compulsive negative belief about ourselves. Okay. So
Mhm.
let's say, and you can do this. This is a practice you can do once a day or once a month or sorry, once a week. And you write this down. So when you have certain beliefs, so you might believe that you are not worthy of respect. That's a belief you might have. Well, here's step one. It's called relabel, and you write down, it is not true that I'm not worthy of respect. I just have a thought or a belief that I'm not worthy of respect. It's not true that I'm responsible for everybody else's feelings. I just have a belief or a thought that I'm responsible. Do you notice the difference?
Mhm.
As long as you believe it, you think it's reality. But as soon as you relabel it, you're saying, oh, this is just a thought that I have. So that's the relabel part.
Right. People in the chat, if you are obviously comfortable with it, you can share a belief that you have and relabel it to everyone.
So it's not that I am unworthy. I have a belief that I'm unworthy. Okay? So that's
Mhm.
the first step. The second step is called reattribute. Now this means go to the source. So when you say to yourself, this belief that I'm not worthy, or this belief that I'm responsible for everybody else is just my brain sending me an old familiar message. Because it's true. Sometime in your life, this belief got ingrained in your nervous system and in your brain. And it's one of these habit energies that keeps arising and keeps sabotaging you. So you
Mhm.
reattribute and you say, oh, okay, this is just an old brain circuit sending me an old familiar message. That's all it actually is, and that's the
Mhm.
reattribute.
Right. I can see a lot of the belief that I am a bad person, the belief that I don't deserve love. I believe that I'll never find my purpose. Um, the belief that I'm not good enough. And yeah, it's going on and on. So and now I believe that I'm an imposter.
Right.
Uh, right. So that's the first step. And now people, you can also write the second step, which Gabor just mentioned, that it's an old electrical signal. How did you put it?
Yeah, I said this is just my brain sending me an old familiar message,
Exactly. Yeah.
which was programmed into it a long time ago. That's all it is.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You know, I saw somebody, I believe that I can never heal. Do you know something? I used to believe that. Long after that, I was a well-known and respected healer, if you want to use that word. I
Mm-hmm.
still believe that I can help everybody else, but I can't be healed myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
very common belief. Now, is it true? No. Was it ever true? No. But it was my brain sending me an old message that goes right back to my infancy. So,
Right.
so this is the reattribute part.
Right. People, you can reattribute. You can do it in the chat, but also, if you want to do it to yourself and say it to yourself, it's also a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the third step is a bit of a sidestep. And this is where we talked about the emergency kit. The third step is called refocus. When you're caught up deeply in this belief that I'm not lovable or I'm not worthy or I'll never heal, and your mind is totally occupied with it, Um, refocus, which means find some other focus for just 5 minutes. Go for a walk, or um, do something else. For 5, 15 minutes. Choose something that you enjoy, that'll keep you active, preferably something that will physically keep you active in a healthy kind of way. So go for a walk, look at some flowers, listen to some music. So just get your mind off that thought and refocus on something else. Or try and mind yourself when maybe some healing did happen for you, even if it didn't last. Or try and remind yourself when you're actually kind and helpful to others. So just refocus on some other aspect of your life. Get your head off. No, 5 minutes later, if the thought comes back, that's fine. But at least find some distance from it. That's what the refocus is about.
Right. It makes me think a lot of what we touched on yesterday with Bessel, who was saying that healing begins with interrupting common patterns that I have, and I guess that's a good way to do it, to refocus. So, people, can you tell us or think about what would be your way to refocus? Gabor mentioned going for a walk, looking at some flowers, but maybe you have other ideas for yourself, something that worked for you, and that also can give ideas to other in this conference.
Now, the important thing to emphasize, which is what Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, who originated these steps, emphasized, is that um, you have to have awareness. So that the key here is conscious awareness. So that you have to pay attention and not just repeat it. When you do these steps, don't just do them routinely. Be aware, be conscious. I'm doing this right now. Stay present to yourself. That'll make them, that'll ensconce them more deeply in your nervous system. So attention awareness is really important. So that's refocus. That's the third step. Now the fourth step is called revalue, but a better way to call it might be reevaluate.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what was the actual value or the actual impact? And in this case, we're talking about a negative value of this belief that you're not worthy, or that this belief that you're not lovable, or this belief that you can't be healed. What is the actual value of it? Well, the actual value of it is that it keeps you depressed and hopeless and isolated and stuck. That's the actual value. So write down the actual value, reevaluate this belief. What is its actual value in my life? Well, it's undermining my life. It's keeping me from my potential. It's keeping me stuck. That's its actual value. And the point, people, is do this exercise regularly.
Hmm.
Do it
Hmm.
once a day if you need to, once a week. Do it, but whenever you do it, write it down. Don't just do it in your head, and do it with conscious awareness. So reevaluate then, or revalue, is the fourth step.
Right, and people, you can keep sending us. I see a lot of mentions of messages. It's sort of hard to keep track, but there's a to the previous one, refocus, dancing. There's singing. There's a rollerblade. Uh, there's a lot of different things and a lot of ideas. And now you can send us, how would you reevaluate this belief? What is it? What value is it bringing in your life? It's I think very important, and that's why in the masterclass, in the Heal masterclass, we have a healing diary, which is a notebook where you're going to write these things, and writing them makes them more conscious, as Gabor said. So you can write it also in the chat.
Okay, Leo, thank you. And the final and the fifth step, and I'm the one who, I'll take credit for this one. Jeffrey Schwartz can have credit for the other four. Um,
Mhm,
I call it recreate. Okay,
mhm.
recreate. And so I'm just going to read you my own summary of this. What has created your identity thus far? You've been acting out of ingrained mechanisms wired into your brain before you had choice in the matter. And out of those automatic mechanisms and long ago programmed beliefs, you have created the life you now have. Because, yeah, you created your life. You didn't mean to, you didn't deliberately, it's not your fault, but the life that you have has been significantly created out of the beliefs and ingrained thoughts that you've had, which were trauma effects. It is time to recreate, to imagine a different life, one truly worth choosing. Now, let me remind you again. When I was in my mid 40s, I felt stuck, depressed, hopeless, and I thought I had all this potential that I have never come close to fulfilling. I didn't even know what that potential was. So that was 35, 36, 37 years ago now. The work is ongoing. Believe me, it's ongoing.
Mhm.
But since then, you know what I've been able to achieve in the world. And I've created a different life. I've been fortunate to get the help, to have the resources, the experience. Fortunate in my choice of life partner, who's been a tremendous support to me. But nevertheless, it's on each of us and in me to create that new life that we want. So it's time to recreate, imagine a different life, and one truly worth choosing. So write it down. This is an exercise. Now, an exercise means you're practicing.
Mhm.
You're going to be a tennis player. You're not going to go out on the court and win your first game against somebody who knows how to play tennis. You have to practice. So the same with creating a life. So this is practice. So you have values, you have passions, you have intention, talent, capability, and a desire to contribute. In your heart, there's love, and you want to connect with the love in the world, etc. So, what kind of values do you want to see manifested in your life? What kind of life do you want to envision for yourself? That's called recreate. Write it down.
Right, people, can you write down how would you recreate? You can write it down in the chat. You can say it to yourself. You can write it in your notebook. I think that's the addition of Gawar. The fifth step is really crucial.
For example, I'll create a life of self-compassion.
Mhm.
That's one. I mean, you can have many different, and every time you do this, you might come up with different intentions, but just write down what kind of life do you choose to create.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. I think we've come to the end to this first part. And people, can you tell us if you found this first part useful? What did you take from it? Did it do something for you? We would love to get your feedback. And actually, now, if you liked it, you're gonna really love the Heal program, because, well, there's many of these types of exercises. We call them the writing exercise. And before we go into explaining the Heal masterclass, I want to say, so some of you are gonna want to join the Heal course, and I want to say a big thank you to all of those, because you are the ones who are making this event possible, right? And you are the ones who are making it possible for the rest of the people here to get a small taste of the masterclass for free. So, thank you, big thank you to everyone who's already joined, and the people who are going to join tonight. Now, let's take a moment now to explain to you what is waiting for you in Gabor's masterclass, and then we'll do the Q&A. So I'd like to start with a question for you, Gabor. there's a lot of material of you out there. There's podcasts, YouTube videos, and we've spent about 1 year building this masterclass. So why did you want to do a masterclass, and what's different about it?
Well, I was just sitting around twiddling my thumb. I didn't know what to do with my life, and so I thought, why don't we do something? Actually, what it was is that, yeah, there's a lot of my stuff out there. There's the Compassion Inquiry Psychotherapeutic course, other video courses, and a lot of stuff on my YouTube that's freely available to everybody, and you don't have to sign up for anything. And then, of course, there are my books. So why did I want to create a new program? Because there wasn't any one particular program which concentrated what I've learned about healing in one actionable format. And so rather than just teaching concepts, um, I wanted to create a structured step by step program in which the viewer can get into an active position where they can actually do something on a regular basis. So that was the whole intention, is to create something actionable for the not just theoretically or emotionally satisfying, but also practically actionable. And from that perspective, um, we included in the program exercises and routines that you could regularly practice. I've given you one or two of them today. But the point is, going back to this question of habit, healing needs to become a habit. And, you know, I'm always wanting to learn. I'm always needing to learn. And right now I'm reading a book called Course in Miracles. And I'm not here to recommend it. It's not for everybody. I'm getting a lot out of it. But they basically say that you'll create the life based on what your actual intention is. So if healing is an intention, then healing has to become a habit, not just a wish, not just a good thought, but actually a habit. And so this heal program would, we hope, help you develop healing as a habit. The other aspect of this is that usually when you see me on YouTube, for the most part, you see me interacting with a lot, not so much interacting, but speaking to a large audience or being interviewed by a particular podcaster and so on. Um, in this program, we have live participants. So there were people there that came for the 3 or 4 days that it took us to film the program, and they participated. So you'll be able to, uh, you don't have to travel anywhere. You don't have to come to my
Right.
talk. You can just actually bring it to your own home by watching me work with these people. And one thing I can tell you, any healer will tell you this, that whenever you're working with one person, you're working with a million people. So that when you watch me work with these individuals who open up about their issues, whether it's to do with addiction or relationship or self worth or whatever it is, I'll be working with you. And then finally, we wanted to create something accessible so that, it's been um, decades of clinical practice and learning and studying and self development. And I wanted to make it accessible for people. Um, Everything that not, I shouldn't say everything, but the essence of what I've learned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can add to the live participants part that it's really mesmerizing to see you work with this audience. There were about 20 people on the shooting set for about 3 days, and there were some really magical moments, really magical or at least profound moments. And obviously, the goal is that it's you can recognize yourself in them, and it's very contagious.
Hmm.
Um, Now, the reason why we created a very practical guide is because before starting the masterclass, we asked the audience, we asked about 3,000 people what they had tried before. And you can see here the list of things that were tried before. There were a lot of different options. Um, and then we asked all these people, what did they need? What did they want from a masterclass from Gabor? And the immense majority said practical exercises. Why? Because, well, knowledge, as Gabor said, knowledge can only get you so far. And what you need to heal is really practice, habits, and ways to apply those teachings. As Gabor said, when you want to try to learn tennis, you're not going to get good at tennis. You're not going to get good at tennis by watching videos on how to play good tennis. It might help, but at some point you need to play tennis, and then your body will change, your brain will change, and you can create really a new player. Um, so before we get into the structure of Heal, and Gabor explains how it's built, maybe there are some people in the audience who have already taken the course and can speak to how they felt about it and if it was useful for them. So in the meantime, Gabor, could we go through the letters and explain why these are essential steps towards healing? And in the meantime, I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna show you how it looks on the website directly, so that you see a little bit the other side of the paywall.
Okay. So the HEAL, HEAL, it's an acronym. Obviously, it's a combination of the beginning of four phrases, and but it's a particularly useful one. So the H in HEAL stands for hearing the pain. Now, this begins with understanding one's own trauma, and that's what this section is all about. Now, a lot of people don't recognize their own trauma. They just think they're bad people, or they think that life is just unfair, which of course it is. But if you settle for that, then it leaves you very powerless. So the first part is just to be able to understand trauma and the misconceptions around trauma. And there are several misconceptions around trauma. I don't know if now's the time for me, Leo, to talk about misconceptions, but in the course, we teach you what is trauma, how it shows up, and what isn't. Like let me make one quick distinction for you. Having pain, having sadness, having grief is not trauma. Having stress is not trauma. Everything traumatic is stressful and painful, but not every pain and not every stress is traumatic. Trauma is a wound that's lodged in your system and has long term impacts. So, trauma is what happens inside you because of things that happen to you. And that means since it's a wound that you're carrying, you can heal it. So, it's not about the past, it's about the present. Helping to understand the past is extremely important, and there's ways to do that. But just understanding it doesn't heal you. The wound is in the present. You can never change the past, but you can certainly heal the wound that was incurred by whatever happened or didn't happen to you. And in that sense, you can make the trauma as your own teacher. And that's why there's a film about my work called The Wisdom of Trauma that you can watch online if you want to find it. It's been seen by 10, 15 million people around the world. There's a there's a wisdom in trauma. And I'm not going to go into all the ways in which there's a wisdom in trauma. I don't wish trauma on anybody. But once it shows up, it can also be a teacher if we know how to learn from it. And, and from that point of view, we teach some self awareness protocols to help you understand the effect of trauma on your behavior, on your relationships, and on your physical health as well, not to mention your mental health. And finally, of course, as I mentioned already, the relationship between addiction and trauma. So we talk about the impacts of trauma and teaching you how to be aware of the impacts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's the A part, is hearing, which means to say, hearing, seeing, understanding the pain.
Right. I just want to share because I went into the lesson 4, what is trauma really, and I just saw one of the comments here. You know, one that really caught my attention, and I just saw from Nicole when he say, "Let's use trauma to teach us." I felt that in my core and automatically said, "Oh wow!" out loud. I'm only a few lessons in, and I am amazed. Dr. Gabor is the real deal. I can confirm Dr. Gabor is the real deal. I just wanted to share this comment here in the masterclass because I thought
Yeah.
it was
Well,
comforting.
nice to be the real deal.
Yeah. Now you know.
Would somebody come and tell my wife that? Maybe? Uh, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes, actually, that's a throwaway, stupid comment. I just like to poke fun sometimes. Okay, so that's the H part. Then the
Mhm,
E in the heal is the empowering yourself to heal,
mhm,
and that's the intention here. And so we go through a number of different strategies for healing. Mentioned some of them today already, but there's a lot more. There is, we talked about what to do when you're overwhelmed. So there's an emergency kit, how to use meditations or breath or images or music or grounding exercises to regulate yourself in those moments of overwhelming upset. And then let me tell you, that's the part that I've always had the most difficulty with, you know, um, in my own personal life. So that's the empower part. Also, in that part of empowering, we look at how to rebuild connection with yourself. And that has to do with reconnecting with your authenticity, because the essence of trauma actually is disconnection from yourself. That's the biggest wound there is. And
mhm,
there's a wonderful section with an indigenous friend of mine, a former
mhm,
um, Reuben George, where we talk about reconnecting with nature. Because
mhm,
in the indigenous tradition, um, people and nature are not separate. Whereas in the Western ideology, in the Western world, we're so alienated to the point that we're destroying nature.
mhm,
We more aspects of empowerment is doing a compassion inquiry with yourself and how to use it with yourself on a daily basis, which, just to remind you again, has to do with asking questions in a compassionate way. Not, why did I do this? But, why did I do that?
mhm, mhm.
So that's the E part.
I can I share also because I just saw also a comment here on the dealing
Yeah,
with triggers and self-destructive reactions, which is where we introduced the emergency kit. But also, I don't know if you remember, but you have a interaction with a live participant called Victory who had an issue on this, and I can say Stephanie, the last comment, which is Victory, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think a lot of us can see ourselves in you. I am so proud of you for sharing and being open to seeing how our minds lie to us. Madeleine, who say, fantastic, couldn't relate less. Thanks for this. So you can see in the comments that people relate very much to this live interaction, and I think it can help trigger something positive in yourself.
good. Okay. So then the A in the heel is
Yeah.
aligning your relationships. And of course, that includes aligning your relationship with yourself. But also, of course, in any relationship, people carry their trauma into the interaction. And sometimes a relationship can be a wonderful ground for the
Mhm.
healing of trauma. And there's some common pitfalls which we teach
Mhm.
about, and how to establish boundaries which are necessary so that in a relationship, like human beings have two basic drives, you know. One is for togetherness, and the other is for separation. One is for communality, the other is for individuality, and they have to be in balance. And if there's no boundaries, then you can't be an individual. Or if you don't respect other people's boundaries, you become overwhelming and controlling and intrusive. But at the same time, you want to maintain contact with them. That's the ideal.
Hmm.
Not just to be a rugged individualist living in a cabin in the woods, you know, but an individual, a true individual who can be in contact with other individuals. That's this is what this is what trauma makes kind of difficult, and this is what realigning means: is to find your individuality in the connection,
Hmm.
and sometimes to recognize that the connection with that particular person is no longer possible. Um, some of the most important relationships that we have, of course, are with our children. So we do talk about how to protect your children from your trauma. We all pass some of our trauma onto our kids until we work it out. That's just how it works. And so the more conscious we can become, um, and the more we can see our kids for who they are and respect their boundaries, the more we're protecting them from our own traumas. I've already mentioned establishing healthy boundaries, and going along with the child part is how to raise emotionally resilient children. Because what you want is children who grow up who don't rely on you anymore, who can be in contact with you
Hmm.
as they grow up, but they no longer rely on you to regulate them, and you want them to find their own emotional resilience, and that'll develop given the right circumstances.
Hmm.
And my son Daniel and I actually, who helped me write this book, The Myth of Normal, him and I are writing a book called Hello Again, a fresh start for parents and adult children. Because in so many of those relationships, including in my own family, it didn't happen the way it ideally would have. But it's never too late to realign and to reconnect. So that's what we're writing a book about now. So that's the align part, aligning your
Hmm.
relationships.
Hmm.
Leo, are we going to talk about the L, or do you want me to say something?
No, you can finish with the L. I'm just for some people who are asking in the chat. I'm showing the course as if I am logged in and I have joined the course. So this is basically the platform, right?
Okay.
So yeah, you can
Well,
finish with the L.
sure. Well, the L has to do with simply what we've already talked about right at the beginning. This is lifelong learning. So that this course, it's not like you take a course at university or college and then you write an exam and then you finish with it. This is something that you want to keep going all your life. And one of the benefits of the HEAL program is that you get to revisit it anytime you want, to refresh it, and to rededicate yourself to the practices. But whether you do it through the HEAL program or whether you do this some other program, and nobody's claiming that it's the only one worth pursuing, but no matter what you do, it's lifelong. Let me tell you, it's lifelong. And at 81, I'm still having to learn, still having to deepen my awareness of what's happening with me, my relationships, and so on. So this HEAL program will be offer you support for that lifelong learning project. So that's the L.
Hmm. Hmm. I just want to share because I'm discovering at the same time these comments. This is the last part, lifelong learning, and one of the last lessons. And here you can see so many comments directed to you, Gabor, and mostly thanking you. For example, Maria, who says, "Thank you, Dr. Gabor, and your team and guests for a tremendously life-changing masterclass. Thank you for your time, vulnerability, compassion, generosity of words, resources, tools, book recommendation, which will become part of my life moving forward." I mean, that's incredible for at least for me. It's incredible to see. And for example, Madeleine, I found this lifeline late in life, but I will have an effect on all my life anyway, because I understand much more of my whole life now. I see my family in another way, and also myself. Thanks, Gabor, and I will try to remember. Do it at a moment. Gabor says this in the masterclass. So yeah, really incredible testimonies here. So some people might ask now, how can we join the program? So I'm gonna show my screen here. There we go. So normally you will have to choose between two paths. There you go. Which is option one. You have the Heal Masterclass. The public price is $600. You get the complete step-by-step masterclass, everything you need to get started at home. And the option two normally would be including the Heal Masterclass. So the Heal Masterclass is in it, but you also get weekly live sessions for 1 year with specialized trauma specialized coaches and also licensed psychotherapists. In total, you have more than 50 sessions where you can ask your questions, you can get some advice, you can have people helping you to keep your momentum strong and really help you overcome roadblocks. I think Bessel mentioned it, that it's hard to do it alone. People feel sometimes alone behind the screen. And here the idea is that you're not alone anymore. You have specialists who can help you. And by the way, one of these sessions will be with Daniel Maté, Gabor's son, shortly. So you will have a sort of a kickoff session with him at the beginning of your program. In there as well, you have exclusive webinars like this one where we dive deeper into key topics. And you also have all the future healing masterclass. For example, we're preparing one with Bessel van der Kolk that you saw yesterday, and many more that are already confirmed. The last thing that you have in there that is not written is that you'll have all the replays from the healing days. So you'll have the more or less 8 hours of content that we've done now. But so here is the Healing Day surprise, is that you don't have to choose. We wanted to make it very simple for you. So here the offer for Healing Day is that you get everything in option 2 for less than the price of option 1. So for the Healing Days only, we remove that choice completely, and you get everything in Mentor Show Plus. You get the Heal Masterclass, the weekly live coaching, the exclusive webinars, the upcoming masterclasses for $399, and that's a 66% discount. So you can, if you want to join, you can scan that QR code, or you can also type ntor.sh/heal. You will be asked to sign up with your email and with your password. And then you will be on the checkout. And once you've paid, you'll have immediate access to the masterclass. One last thing before we get to the Q&A is that with this offer, we offer you an incredible guarantee, which we call the 100% risk-free guarantee. And it goes as follows. I'm going to explain as shortly as I can and as clearly as I can. Is that if you complete the program, you watch it entirely, and you do the exercises in your healing diary, and you still think it's not for you, you need your money for some reason, or you just want your money back, you can ask for your money back. You just email us info@mentorshow.com. And you'll get your money back. You just send us the pictures of the exercises that you made in your healing diary, and we'll refund you. So this is the 100% risk-free guarantee. It's basically, if you don't like it, you get a refund. That's because, well, we're very confident that it can have a very profound impact in your life. So we've decided to take the risk on our side, basically. You saw already a lot of comments in the Mentor Show website, but I still wanted to show you a few. For example, Elizabeth, even if I work as a psychotherapist, as a mentor, I'm learning how to speak deep on me with compassion, how to follow with love my thoughts and feelings, how to give that to my son too. Be here listening to you is my gift to that little girl inside of me. I think that's really the goal when we created the course. And for example, Matthew, please extend my gratitude to all the team to make this masterpiece possible. It changed my life, and I'm quite sure it will do the same for too many people around the world. So obviously, that's what we hope when we created this course. All right. So once again, if you want to join, you can just scan this QR code. And just one last thing is that we this offer will be only for 500 spots, just because we have a limited pool of coaches and psychotherapists. So we want for everyone to have the right level of attention. So we'll limit this offer to 500 spots. All right, I think we're done here. Now we can get to the Q&A, and the first question is from Crystal. How do I reinforce my boundaries without feeling fear or shame, specifically with loved ones such as parents? That's a good question to start with.
Well, you can't. Okay.
Okay.
Because you've been programmed. And here's the programming, Krista. If I assert my boundaries, if I stand up for myself, I'm hurting somebody else. That's the belief. What you do is you do those 5 steps. This belief that I have to suppress myself to please others, it's not true. It's not true that I have to suppress myself to please others. It's just a belief that I have. That's the first step. Second step, this belief is my brain sending me an old message. Now, it would be very nice if I could give you a magic way to assert yourself and be yourself and not feel guilty and not feel shamed. You'll get there, but that's going to take learning, because you've had a whole life of learning the opposite. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what is the impact on me of not saying no? What is the impact on me of trying to please others? What is the impact on me of trying to protect other people from myself? What is the impact? And then ask yourself this question: which would you rather have? The impact of suppressing yourself, or the guilt that's going to arise for you when you don't suppress yourself? So what I'm saying to you is, embrace the guilt. It's just old programming. You can't help it. It's going to come up. It's automatic. But you don't have to believe it. You can do the 5 steps regularly. So eventually, you'll find it very sweet. But in the beginning, you're going to feel guilt and shame. It's going to arise because you're programmed. That's why the 5 steps, for example. And if you want to go deeper into it, I do suggest you read a couple of my books, When the Body Says No and or The Myth of Normal. It'll teach you a lot. Of course, so would the healing program, the Heal program with Leo.
I'm just going to answer a few questions about the Heal program that I see in the chat. Is this USD? Yes, this is USD. Do the Heal lessons start at a certain time? No, you have, once you buy the course, once you join, you have access to the whole course immediately. So there's about 17 lessons. There's about 45 modules that you saw on my screen earlier. So you have access to everything. You can also download it on your phone if you want to watch it in the subway or anywhere else. But there's the live sessions with the coaches. So I had a question. The sessions with the coaches are live. Yes, they are live. You have weekly sessions with either a coach or a psychotherapist, and these are our life. And so the one that I talked about, the kickoff with Daniel Maté, will be in the coming days, weeks, probably in this month, and it will be a live session with Daniel. And one last question: is there installments? Yes, there's the possibility to pay in 3 installments if you need to. Okay, so how can I deal? A question from Esma: how can I deal with a narcissistic spouse?
Well, first of all, a lot of us have some narcissistic traits, including myself. The question is the person willing to look at themselves in any way at all? Because it's very difficult to be with a person whose only concern is themselves. Because you become not a real individual person, but you become an object in a relationship. And that object is there to satisfy the needs, desires of that other person. And if you take on that position, it's going to make you sick. It's going to make you sick mentally, or it's going to make you sick physically. Now, if somebody has some narcissistic traits, but they're willing to recognize it, there may be some possibility there. But if they're not, you have a decision to make. What you would rather prefer, to be in this relationship or not to be in this relationship? Because what you cannot do is change the other person. And all the pressure and all the arguing and all the cajoling you'll do to get them to change is never going to work unless they themselves perceive that they have a problem. So if they do, they need to get help. And you need to get help. But if they don't, then there's nothing you can do. You can decide to stay in the relationship and put up with all the harms and burdens that the narcissism imposes, or you can leave it. But what you cannot do on your own is to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. And that's the painful truth. And that's what I keep talking about. We have this need for our individual truth, and we have the need to be in relationship. Sometimes two are not possible with one particular person. Sometimes it is.
We have a question for me from Sarah. What's the difference between signing up for Gabor's class and mentor show? And also there were questions: if I want several programs, can I get a bundle? I'll answer both in the same time. If you join mentor show, you have the app, you have everything that's in it, and so it's like having Netflix, right? You're gonna be able to watch Gabor, but you're gonna also be able to watch there's about 60 programs in there. A lot of them are on trauma, actually, and you can watch anything you want. So I think a relevant question to today's session is from Meryl. What should I do when I feel the great divide within that paralyzes me? What do I listen to? The body, the mind, the heart? There have been times when the heart seemed to hurt, that I couldn't get my mind and body to work as well.
Well, I didn't mention the gut, but I would say listen to the gut. There are 3 brains that we have, at least. You know, the brain up here, the brain in the heart, the brain in the gut. The gut is the clearest because the heart can deceive you.
Mm-hmm.
The intellect can deceive you. The gut will not. So when there's any doubt, check in with your gut feelings. The 3 need to work together, and when we're functioning well, they are working together. But your ultimate best guide is the gut. What is your gut feeling telling you? That's the most direct question to ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting question from Jasmine Villaseñor. Is there a connection between the big five personality traits and the way an individual experiences and processes trauma?
You know, I'm not familiar with the concept of the big five personality traits.
Yes, I guess maybe to reframe the question would be, um, is there different ways, different types of experiencing a trauma and living it, and how do these different types of experience relate?
Well, it's a huge question, but let me give you
Hmm.
very,
Hmm.
for a very simplified answer. First of all, our personality is not who we are. Our
Hmm.
personality very often reflects our defenses. So, for example, if you were not loved for who you were, then you might develop a very charming personality.
Hmm. Hmm.
Didn't get the attention that you needed, then you might want to be very attractive to people. Then you be very attractive. If you didn't, if you weren't made to feel important, you might become a compulsive helper. Now you'll be important all the time. So we have to understand that the personality and the real person are not the same thing. It's a combination of our real characteristics and the defenses and coping mechanisms that we develop. That's the first point. The second point is that what was the second point? Repeat the question again, Leo, would you? Because
I see someone in the chat who mentioned the different personalities. I think the question that was asked was, is there a connection between the big five personality traits and the way an individual experiences and processes trauma? And someone was kind enough to tell us the five: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
well, look, okay, I hear these. They're one way of looking at things. I'm not sure that it's comprehensive or it's
Hmm.
everything, but
Hmm.
certainly true is that openness, genuine openness, usually means that you haven't been traumatized that severely
Hmm.
or that you've found a way to deal with your trauma. Otherwise, you wouldn't be open.
Hmm.
The essence of trauma is a closing down. Conscientiousness, I'd be very careful with that one because you could be conscientious for two reasons. You can be conscientious for the same reason that the first questioner today, that if I'm not conscientious and if I'm not looking after others, I feel shame and guilty. So
Hmm.
conscientiousness can just be a trauma-based, self-induced um, sense of responsibility. But conscientiousness could also come from genuine, open empathy. The first one is trauma-based. The second one is not.
Hmm.
So it depends on where the conscientiousness comes from. You can be conscientious and be killing yourself because you're doing it out of a need to please or to help others while ignoring yourself. Or you could be conscientious out of perfectly valid, self respecting reasons.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, extroversion, a lot of that has to do with temperament. Um, some kids are more extroverted than others by temperament, they're just born that way.
Hmm.
Uh, it all depends on, it all depends also on um, social circumstances under which you grew up. Also depends on your level of sensitivity. The more sensitive people are, generally, the more shy they tend to be.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, I'm just not sure that these five. I'm not finding them all that helpful as a way of looking at
Hmm.
human.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm saying is that what they describe are external behaviors, but the real question is where do these behaviors come from? And
Mm-hmm.
and that's what tell you. You can be extroverted because you want to be the center of attention all the time, because you have a very low self-esteem, and the way you build it up is by other people paying attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
But or you can be extroverted just because you're open and you're just full of fun and you love people. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not these personality characteristics that tell me the degree of trauma that may or may not be present. It's what's driving them.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a more common question from Tony Vespi. Sometimes I notice my heart feels heavy and closed when I'm not being true to myself. How do I begin trusting that my authentic self is enough, even if it risks disappointing others?
Well, first of all, your body is telling you, do you want to have that heavy heart? Do you matter? Does your experience have value? If the answer is yes, then you say, I don't want to have a heavy heart. And if other people are disappointed, it's not my problem. Again, this has to do with doing those 5 steps.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have this belief that if you are true to yourself, you're letting down others. Step number one, that I'm letting down others by being true to myself is not reality. It's a belief that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Two, that belief is my brain sending me an old message. And so on. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But ask yourself, what is the impact on you? Do you want to go on with a heavy heart? Do you deserve to go on with a heavy heart? Does anybody? And if other people don't, why do you?
Mm-hmm. Liliana Dazal, I think I know the answer to that, but I lost my dad when 3. I lived through the violent era of Pablo Escobar and guerrillas in Colombia. I always expect the worst. Sometimes I feel lost. I can get angry very often. Very often. Is that trauma?
Yes.
Yeah.
It means that you're being taken over by mechanisms programmed into you. Because life happens. People die. There's grief. Again, trauma is not the absence of grief.
Mm-hmm.
So these down cycles that you describe about yourself are an outcome of trauma, because our true self, we're just here experiencing life and being open to it. That depression, that down, that's a closing down. And that's a closing down is a defensive maneuver that you developed as a child.
Mm-hmm. Elise Thompson is asking, what is the difference? I think it's relevant to the first part that we had. What is the difference between closing my heart and having boundaries, protecting yourself from toxic people?
Well, when you close your heart, you don't care about anybody else, or you don't care about yourself. But for example, if you came to me and you wanted something from me that I wasn't in a position to give you or didn't want to, I could still care about you, but I could say to you, listen, I'm sorry, I really care about you, but I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally different body state. With the closing of the heart, there's a tension, there's a heaviness, there's a resentment. With the
Mm-hmm.
boundary setting, there's just no, sorry, no. But it's got nothing to do with you closing down. They're totally different body states.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people will accuse you If you set boundaries, some people in your life will say, you have no heart. No,
Mm,
I do have a heart, but it's open to myself as much as it is to others. And that's why I'm setting a boundary.
mhm,
If you don't like it, I'm sorry. I understand.
mhm, mhm. Jennifer Carrasquillo is asking, what are Gabor's thoughts on EMDR trauma treatment for healing?
I haven't studied EMDR very much, but I've seen the studies, and certainly Bessel, I think, would have talked about it yesterday. Did he, Leo?
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a look. There's nothing perfect. There's no method of therapy, mine, Bessel's, anybody else's, that's perfect for everybody. Not
Mhm,
EMDR, not brain spotting, not neurolinguistic reprogramming, nothing. But there are therapies that do work for a reasonable number of people. And EMDR, but again, it depends on who's doing it, because just as a technique by itself, I think it's limited. But if it's in the context of a trauma informed therapeutic program or therapeutic approach, it can be very helpful. So EMDR is one of the programs that have been studied scientifically and has been shown to have benefit. So it's not a question of my personal opinion. It's what the science seems to say about it.
mhm, mhm. Karen Kaur is asking, is there a limit to compassion and working with a client whose anger and addiction to destructive suicidal thoughts are constantly overwhelming?
Overwhelming who? You or them? I need to
Mhm.
know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Because when I work, I teach this course called Compassion Inquiry, which is specifically for therapists. It's a year-long, demanding, time-consuming, emotionally challenging, not for the faint-hearted program. But one of the first things I teach, or one of the things I teach is there are no difficult clients. Who's having the difficulty? So if you're resenting their constant return to these old programs, if you're feeling like you're a failure, if you think that this person is not trying hard enough, if you're the one that's being overwhelmed, then I'd say two things to you. One is either get some help because it's your own problem, or say to this client, I'm sorry, I really care about you, but I find myself at the limit of my capacity to help you. That doesn't mean you can't be helped. It just means that I don't know enough to help you. So let's find you somebody you could work with who wouldn't feel that way. This is my own limitation, not yours. So, in a nutshell, get some help for yourself to deal with your feelings that come up with this client,
Mhm, mhm,
or admit that you're not up for it.
mhm, mhm. Um, I saw someone asking. I just signed up for the masterclass. How do I access? Normally, once you've signed up, you have a button that you can click, and it will take you to Mentor Show. Or if there's a problem there somewhere, you must have received an email, so you can go in there and you can log in. If there's any technical issue or anything that you don't understand, you can always contact info@mentorshow.com, and the team will respond as fast as possible. Um, we have from Karen, how do we work with people who were severely traumatized and don't trust anyone and have closed their ear off completely, even to those who are trying to help them, and it is impossible to reach them?
Well, first of all, there's an assumption in what you say. And the
Mhm.
assumption is that it's impossible to reach them. How do you know? All you know is that you haven't been able to reach them. So maybe you're right, but just because you tell me that they're impossible to reach doesn't convince me. Could be that you just haven't found a way to reach them. Maybe they trigger something in you. Maybe they bring you up against your own limitations. So then it's very similar to what I said to somebody before. Um, if and I don't know who this person is in your life. Are you a therapist, and is this a client, or is this a relative or a friend? Um, but just because you find it impossible to reach them doesn't mean that they're impossible to reach.
Mm-hmm.
And either they need to be referred to somebody who's confident, or you need to work on your own approach.
Mm-hmm.
But and you're not obligated to take this on. I mean, don't put pressure on yourself. If this is something you choose to do, then you have to need to work on yourself. But you don't have to choose to do it. The whole world is not your responsibility. And there's some people you can help and some people you can't help. But I don't accept the statement about somebody that they're impossible to reach.
Mm-hmm. Question from Kira Knudsen on more on parenting. Gabor, at what age do you think it's most beneficial to introduce children to trauma-based therapy? And what are the best methods for teaching children to identify emotions using somatic awareness?
Well, first of all, hopefully we raise kids that don't need trauma therapy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the prevention is far more important to consider first than the treatment. Secondly, it
Mm-hmm.
depends on the age of the child. Young kids can do trauma therapy, but you don't call it trauma therapy. You know what you call it? You call it play therapy. You call it sand tray therapy. You
Mm-hmm.
call it art therapy. You call it music therapy. They don't go there to talk about trauma, but in sand tray, they'll act out their trauma and they'll have to resolve it, or in play therapy, or in art, or in music. So all these mechanisms um, are young, it depends on the age of the child, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jennifer asks, do you have a belief that most maladaptive behavior is rooted in attachments, as you have mentioned in regard to addiction?
Yes, human beings are designed for attachment, for connection, for communality, for compassion. We have these needs that we're born with. If those needs are met, there'll be no maladaptive behavior. And by the way, what we call maladaptive was perfectly adaptive at a certain point. But later on, like for example, attention problems. Um, my view, for example, for attention difficulties is that the tuning out, the absent-mindedness, at some point was a coping mechanism. When there's too much stress in the environment, a child can't leave the situation or change it. So what can they do? One thing they do, they tune out. And when are they tuning out? When their brain is developed, because the brain develops in interaction with the environment. Physiologically, that's just a fact. It develops in relationship to our attachment relationships. That's just a physiological fact. Even though if most doctors don't know that, but that's just the science. So that tuning out to a young child who's stressed because the parents are stressed or the parents are depressed or it's a difficult situation or a war situation and the child tunes out, that's perfectly adaptive. There's nothing maladaptive about it. It becomes maladaptive later on. That's the whole problem, is that
Mm-hmm.
the behaviors or patterns that were adaptive in the first place, later on, they no longer serve us. But in that sense, yes, I think they all originate with significant disruptions. Depending how sensitive the child is, the less sensitive, the less significant the disruption is to our attachment relationships.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna answer a few questions on the Heal course and give Gabor a little bit of a rest because I'm firing up so many questions now. Um, is there material on compassion in the Heal masterclass? Yes, there's material on compassion. There's a whole section on it, and there's masterclass go over how to practice compassionate inquiry. Yes, so there's a theoretical part, and then there's how to how did we name it? How to put in practice compassionate inquiry in your life, and there are written exercises there that you can do to practice this. Is the
Yeah,
healing program?
yeah, I wanted to say something here though.
Yeah.
Nobody should confuse the professional compassion inquiry training
Yes.
with what we offer in the mentorship program.
Yeah. Of course.
Yes, the HEAL program does introduce compassion inquiry for the lay person in the context of their own lives. But the
Mhm.
actual professional training, that's a totally different program, just to make that distinction.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying this. Question from Riachini: is the healing program different from the masterclass? No, Riachini, the healing program, what we called it many names, so I understand it's confusing. The heal program or the healing program, the masterclass is this one and same thing. It's the course of Gabor on healing. Um, Okay, I had a question for you, Gabor, uh, from Shai. It's hard to practice compassion and kindness. I think that's a lot of people will relate to this. It's hard to practice compassion and kindness and operate from an open hearted feeling when you've been mistreated and shown no kindness in return. How do I operate from a place of open heartedness in spaces and relationships that have shown me that they don't have care towards me?
Well, why are you trying to do the impossible? Is my question to you. What compassion are you showing to yourself when you try and do the impossible? That's the first point. The second point is, and I understand your dilemma. I mean, that's a place of deep pain that you're coming from. But don't force yourself to do something that you can't do. And actually, when I listen to your question, there's a lot of anger in it. You're really angry. Well, you're not going to be compassionate towards people when you're full of rage towards them. So I would say this: maybe those people are exactly the way you describe them. Maybe they are. I mean, I don't know. Or maybe that's your perception. And maybe there's more to them than what you perceive. I don't know that either. I'm just talking about possibilities. But the first thing is, don't worry about being compassionate towards others. Be compassionate towards yourself. Heal yourself. And then you will know how to show compassion towards others. Once you've been compassionate with yourself, and right now you're not, right now you're forcing yourself to go in the face against your own inclinations. Stop doing that. Get some help. Do the healing. Maybe your perceptions of these other people will change. Maybe you'll see them as flawed individuals who have screwed up in some ways, and maybe you can work it out, maybe you can't. But don't do it from your peasant situation. Don't coerce yourself to do something that your body and your soul does not want you to do right now. Get help for yourself first, then worry about the others.
Okay, I suggest we take a few more questions, two or three, and then we'll close the this third day, incredible first third day of the healing days. We're almost 2 hours, so I'm just gonna take two, three more questions. Um, Leta, who is asking, can you heal from childhood sexual abuse if you kept it a secret for 40 years?
Is the question whether you can heal from it?
Yes. Can you heal from childhood sexual abuse if you kept it a secret for 40 years?
Yes, you can. Don't forget what I said about trauma. Trauma is not what happened to you. Trauma is the wound that you carry because of what happened to you.
Mhm,
And wounds can be healed. So yes,
mhm,
you can heal. You can heal. Um, what happened to you was terrible, and it had all kinds of impacts on your life. But yes, you can heal, and I've seen it. So the answer is yes, because it's the wound in the present that you're carrying can be healed in the present. You'll never change the past, but the shame you have about it, or the negative view about the world or about yourself that you have about it, whatever you believe, those things can be changed.
mhm. Question from Christine: what are the best ways that I can help my girlfriend heal her childhood trauma?
It's not your job. Give it up. It's not your project.
Mhm,
Nobody set you up to be her mother or to her therapist. Be her friend.
mhm, mhm,
Enjoy her. Listen to her. If she wants your advice, give her advice, which is get some help.
mhm,
But it's not your job to heal them. And if you think it is, you're the one who needs the healing.
mhm,
Now, naturally, you desire a girlfriend to heal. Of course you do.
mhm,
It's not your job.
mhm. Um, Interesting question from Stephanie, I thought, because she's asking, can your trauma become your biggest strength? And I think it's interesting because, well, for example, like you, Gabor, well, you often say that one of your triggers is to feel unseen, to feel not understood,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why one of your superpowers, I would say, is that you understand people like no one else. You really see people. So can your trauma become really your biggest strength?
It can, but it takes a lot of work. And the more you're stuck in the trauma, the less effective that strength becomes. So, yeah, we do develop these. Look, there's a lot of successful people out there who are totally driven and they're very successful, adept, and accomplished in the business world because they drive themselves so hard because they don't feel fundamentally that they're worth anything unless they've achieved something out there. So you might say their trauma is their biggest strength, but is it? Is it
Mhm,
good for them to be that driven? Are they happy inside? Are they complete? So the response to trauma can give us certain powers that seem to work in the world. But I'd be careful about making that equation. Um, what is true is trauma that is worked through can become a tremendous teacher to you and a tremendous support to you. And let me tell you something. When I was working in the downtown east side with these highly drug addicted clients who were literally killing themselves, but so often I heard them say, Doc, if I ever work my way out of this, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to make sure that nobody else suffers the way that I suffered. So that dealing with the trauma in some people can awake tremendous compassion and commitment. Yes, it can work that way. But you can't employ it fully until you worked it through within yourself.
All right, I think that's the right way to end this Q&A session, and actually this whole third day of the healing days. I think we had a very special moment here. So obviously, thank you, Gabor, for really invaluable insights, and also thank you everyone in the chat because it was really insane in there in terms of amount of people, but also very good energy. So thank you, everyone. Thank you also to everyone who's already joining the Heal program. It's thanks to you that we can do these events. And I just want to take a second to also thank the many people who've worked on this Heal masterclass. There's about 50 people who worked on it really hard. And the main of them is you, Gabor. So thank you for your trust and this really incredible work that you did. Hoping that it's gonna help many people, change many lives. And so everyone, if some of you want to stay after, we're gonna play the teaser of the masterclass now, and we're also gonna play the first lesson. I will stay a little bit after that to answer if you have questions about the course. All right, thank you everyone, and thank you, Gabor.
Thank you, Leo. Bye-bye.
Bye, see you soon. All right, everyone. Sorry, we are having a little bit of a technical issue because this is our backup tool because the first tool had a bug. So we are charging the videos that we want to show you, the teaser and the first lesson. It's gonna come in 2-3 minutes. In the meantime, I can answer questions if you have some about the Heal program. I can see, do you participate and interact with other trauma survivors during the masterclass? So I don't know who is you. I don't. I'm behind the camera, but Gabor does. So he interacts with. We selected about 20 people out of 500 was the casting, more or less. And very different profile, but they had all one thing in common, which is that they were trauma survivors. So the answer is yes. Is there going to be a replay of these first 2 days? The answer is yes. There's a replay in the masterclass. So if you join the masterclass, you will have a replay of the 3 complete days, so that you can start again doing the meditation, the incredible meditation of Marisa, and the other exercises that we saw. What is your beautiful accent? I am French. So yeah, it's a French accent. I'm quite surprised that you noticed. Actually, I didn't think it was that obvious. Are all your classes in English? There are there are a lot of classes in French, but they are subtitled, and some of them are even dubbed in English. So I'm just seeing that the video is charging. It's taking a little bit of time, unfortunately, but it's gonna come. I mean, I hope. Merci beaucoup. Do you want me to show a little bit more the platform, maybe, if you don't have any other questions? So when there's installments, you have 3 installments, and it's for 3 months. So you'll pay the 3 months in a row, right? Is Friday a day off? Yes, you can take a day off. I think now we've done more or less 6 hours of more than 6 hours of healing days. Bonsoir. Do you do the masterclass in your own time, or are they dated, timed lessons released weekly? No, when you buy the course, you have everything at once. So you can, it's like on Netflix. You can have the whole course. After the first year is renewal 1,200. So yes, you have the package that we gave is Mentor Show Plus. So it's a package that is at 1,200. Now you have a discount, 60% discount, and now you have it for the first year at 399. Then obviously you can cancel, and you can cancel the renewal if you don't want it for the second year.
In my masterclass,
There you go. I think it is still charging for some reason. How do I stop the renewal fee? You can go in your account and cancel, or you can just, if there's anything, you can send an email to info@mentorshow.com and they can do it for you. How can I buy it? You can buy it by scanning the QR code, or you can also type in Google in your internet bar mtor.sh/heal, HEAL. So 399 is for 1 year, yes. Do I get a certificate upon completion? Right now, we don't have a certificate. Is it possible to send questions during the program privately? You can send questions on the platform, but it's not really private. Then you can potentially ask questions during the coaching sessions. I think the video now is charged. I'm gonna ask to play it.
In my masterclass, Heal, I built for the first time a practical step-by-step guide towards healing. And now that's what I'm going to share here with you. As a physician and a therapist, I worked with people whose lives have been shaped by trauma, some obvious, others more hidden. I've seen how unresolved pain silently infuses every aspect of life, from relationships to mental health to even physical health. I've treated people facing the scars of narcissistic abuse, child abuse, sexual trauma, and many other wounds, big and small. And through this, I've developed a structured approach to healing trauma that can transform suffering into resilience and into strength. After 40 years of practice, I've poured everything I've learned into this masterclass so as to transform your life. It includes over 5 hours of exclusive content, dozens of exercises and regular practices, meditations I personally guide, scientific information, and daily tools. Understanding trauma is not just about the past, it's primarily about reclaiming your present. I'm here to tell you that yes, you can heal. I'm Gabor Maté, and I invite you to take the journey with me. Welcome to this masterclass. My name is Gabor. I'll be your mentor and guide throughout this process, the intention of which is to understand what trauma is in our lives and the healing of trauma. Both the words trauma and healing have specific meanings, which I'll be explaining a little bit later. But let me say something first about words and the use of words. There's that English proverb that says that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's not true. Words can hurt. And many of us, all of us, have been hurt by words that we've heard that were spoken to us in ways that didn't respect who we were, didn't see who we were, that made us believe things about ourselves that were not true and even harmful. So words are very important. It's not accidental that one of the books of the New Testament says that in the beginning was the Word. And in Buddhist teaching, right speech is one of the steps on the Eightfold Noble Path. Speaking the truth, not speaking harmfully or harshly, not speaking untruths. Words are very important. This bracelet that I'm wearing was given to me in a beautiful place here in British Columbia called Haida Gwaii, which are some islands inhabited since time immemorial by indigenous people. And I went there to give a trauma workshop not long ago, and they gave me this bracelet as a gift. And the meaning of this carved picture is these words matter. So my intention here is that the words that I utter will make a difference to you and your life and to your present and your future. As to who am I to be doing this and how did I come to do this, that has to do with my own personal history, and it also has to do with what I've learned as a physician and as a healer and as a teacher and a writer, and most fundamentally, just as a human being. I'd like to read you a poem by one of the great Sufi poets. His name is Hafiz, and it's about words. And it's also about how we know what we know. Because here in the Western world, we tend to think of knowledge as being up in the head and intellectual. And here's what Hafiz says about words. He says, someone should start laughing. That's the name of the poem. I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, how are you? I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, what is God? If you think that truth can be known from words, if you think that the sun and the ocean can pass through that tiny opening called the mouth, oh, someone should start laughing. Someone should start laughing wildly now. In other words, there's much more to truth and reality than the words of the intellect can possibly understand and convey. And so what I know, at least what I believe I know, is not just from intellectual education. In fact, that's probably the least of it. It's important, but it comes from life experience. And how we know what we know comes to us through different portals. One of them is the intellect, and that's important and not to be discounted. But we also know with the heart, and we also know with the gut. And these ways of knowing are all connected. So if you ask me, how do I know what I know? Well, as best I can tell, it's a combination of those three forms of knowledge. And I hope those portals are open in you or can be opened in you. In fact, I know they can be. When I was a year old, a doctor came to see me. I was very ill. It was a wartime Hungary. I was separated from my mother. I was having severe cough, and I was with people that were almost strangers to me. And I will not tell you the whole story, but the doctor said that she had never seen, this is a pediatrician, that she had never seen such fear, such terror in the eyes of an individual as she had witnessed in my eyes. So I began life with a lot of fear, a lot of terror, and the shadows of that, I have to confess, own, are still with me sometimes. I've had to come to terms with those shadows. I've had to come to terms with the imprints of those experiences as they affected my life. So much of the learning has just been living and being curious about what are those shadows about and how do they affect us, not just me, but human beings in general. So learning has been one of living. Then there's my intellectual education, both as an undergraduate studying history and literature, and then as a physician in the medical education and my medical practice. And it was in my medical practice, working with chronically ill people, children, elderly people, dying people, highly addicted people over a certain period of years, that I learned that what they had taught me in medical school was not nearly sufficient to explain why people suffer, why they get ill, why they get challenged by mental health conditions or physical illness. So I've had to move beyond what they taught me, use what they taught me, but move beyond it. And I've learned that there's much more to health and illness and recovery than simply what they taught me from a very narrow scientific point of view. And what is interesting is that when I say from a scientific point of view, they only taught me a very narrow segment of the science, because there's a lot of science now that shows that the Western propensity to separate mind from the body, to separate individuals from the environment, to separate the individual from the unity that life and this whole universe represents, is unscientific. So science has shown how unscientific the narrowness of the Western medical approach actually is. And nobody had taught me that. So first I had to kind of intuit it on my own, and then I discovered there's all this beautiful scientific research validating a broader, more holistic point of view. So it is that broader, more holistic point of view, or I wish to say more holistic point of view, that I'll be wanting to convey to you during this masterclass, and to alert you to the possibilities of healing and recovery within yourself. And let me conclude by saying a couple of words about the meaning of healing. The word healing, in my own native or my mother tongue of Hungarian, literally means wholeness. Literally, it means wholeness. In English, the word healing also comes from an ancient word, an ancient Anglo-Saxon word for wholeness. So healing literally means health, literally means wholeness. And where the trauma comes in, and I'll be speaking about that in one of the lessons, is that it fragments that wholeness. So we become disconnected from ourselves. And when you look at the word recovery, that's another interesting word. Speaking of words, what does it mean to recover something? It means to find it. And what is it that we find when we recover? We find that connection that we lost in the first place. So recovery means really finding ourselves, which is the intention of this masterclass. And wholeness, healing, that's the other intention, and they mean the same thing. So again, welcome, and let's begin the journey. Just a bit of orientation as to how this is going to go. I'll be giving talks, as I just have. Then we'll be introducing exercises. Some of those exercises will be thought exercises. Some might be spoken. Some will be written. And we'll give you the guidance and the directions in every case. So the masterclass will consist of teaching and then exercises that you're meant to do for yourself as we go on. Thank you.
All right, there you go. This was the first lesson of the course from Gabor. It's one in 46 modules, so you can see it's quite incredible, because in just one, this first lesson that is quite short, it was about 10 minutes. It's already, it gives a lot of things to sink in. And there are some lessons that are 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And as he said, in this lesson, there's writing exercise that you do in your healing diary, but there are also somatic exercises. There are exclusive meditations that Gabor gives, meditations that he does himself for himself, and some breathing exercises as well that he uses. So yeah, there's a lot in there. I saw a few questions on, does the recording of Healing Days on Mentor Show Plus include the Q&A sessions? I saw this question a few times. So the answer is yes. If you get the Mentor Show Plus, you will get the replays from the Healing Days, including the Q&A sessions. So you will have everything. And you will be able to access whenever you want, on your mobile, on your computer, download it, and so on. A few other questions. Actually, I'm going to share this for you on the price. There was a little bit of confusion. Usually the course of Gabor is $600. And you get the Heal Method, 18 lessons, but there's like 45 modules, 7 hours, 22 practical exercises, guided meditations, writing exercise. And normally you have the choice to get Mentor Show Plus with everything that I already mentioned. But specifically for the Healing Days, for these few days, you get for $399 the Mentor Show Plus. So $399 is the plus, right? You get everything in there. You get everything we have. So you get the Heal Method, you get the weekly live sessions, you get exclusive webinars, you get all the future healing masterclasses, Bessel, and so on, and all the replays of the Healing Days, right? There were a few questions on are there transcripts available for the class? Good question, actually. I didn't talk about that. There's, in each class and in Gabor's class, there's a workbook. So you have, it's like a PDF file that you can download, and in there you have all the masterclass in a book format. It's like a book that you can take anywhere. What did I have? Are the sessions group sessions? Yes, this is group sessions so that you can learn from others. These are specialized coaches, right? There's trauma specialized coaches, specialized trauma psychotherapists that are used to this kind of format, and actually some of them were recommended by Gabor himself. I had a question about the guarantee. In 6 months, if I don't like it and I want a refund, can I get it back? The answer is yes. So the guarantee, again, if you complete the program and you do all the exercises and you send them to, you can contact info@mentorshow, you can ask for a refund, you can just send the exercises that you've made, and if you completed the masterclass and you had all the exercises done, then we refund you. It doesn't matter if it's in 2 months or in 6 months or whatever. Is there spots left in the 500 spots? Yes, actually there are spots left. I think the team told me that there were about 120 spots left, so it's going quickly, but there are still some spots left. How do we get access to all the courses when joining? So same here, you can scan this QR code that you see, or you can type this mtor.sh/heal, and you'll be asked to sign up to buy the course, and then you will be able to access immediately the masterclass. Your English is too good, Leo. Thank you. I'm a little bit struggling, but people still notice my accent, so I guess it still has some progress to be done. Do we get access to all courses when joining? The answer is yes. You get all the courses on the platform. You get about 60 masterclasses of each, is about in average 4 or 5 hours. So there's a lot of things. There's actually one of the best sellers is a masterclass from Boris Cyrulnik, which has an incredible story. He's a psychiatrist, and his parents were taken by the Nazis in front of his eyes when he was 4. So he's an incredible person, and he's really democratized the concept of resilience. And so the masterclass is about resilience and using resilience for a process of healing. It's incredible. People love it. So if you join, go take a look, and I hope you like it. How do I sign up? You just have to scan this QR code or click on the links, and you can join. All right, everyone. I think now we've gone more than two hours and a half. Is all material available in English? Yes, of course, it's available in English. All right, thank you for the compliments on my accent. I see that my accent is really making the headlines. Then
Now
I'll
we're
play
going
you
to show
the
you
first
the
lesson
first
from
lesson
Gabor, and
from the
I'll
Heal Masterclass,
go
just so
change
you can get a
because
feel
it's
of
gotten
what's
really
inside.
warm with
And
everyone
in the
here.
meantime, I'll
We'll
go
meet
and
again
change
right
my
after.
shirt because
Enjoy
it got very
watching,
warm in here because of
and
all this
see you in a
energy
moment.
in the chat. All right, enjoy the lesson and see you in a minute.
In my masterclass, Heal, I built for the first time a practical step-by-step guide towards healing. And now that's what I'm going to share here with you. As a physician and a therapist, I work through the people whose lives have been shaped by trauma, some obvious, others more hidden. I've seen how unresolved pain silently infuses every aspect of life, from relationships to mental health to even physical health. I've treated people facing the scars of narcissistic abuse, child abuse, sexual trauma, and many other wounds, big and small. And through this, I've developed a structured approach to healing trauma that can transform suffering into resilience and into strength. After 40 years of practice, I've poured everything I've learned into this masterclass so as to transform your life. It includes over 5 hours of exclusive content, dozens of exercises and regular practices, meditations I personally guide, scientific information, and daily tools. Understanding trauma is not just about the past, it's primarily about reclaiming your present. I'm here to tell you that yes, you can heal. I'm Gabor Maté, and I invite you to take the journey with me. Welcome to this masterclass. My name is Gabor. I'll be your mentor and guide throughout this process, the intention of which is to understand what trauma is in our lives and the healing of trauma. Both the words trauma and healing have specific meanings, which I'll be explaining a little bit later. But let me say something first about words and the use of words. There's that English proverb that says that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's not true. Words can hurt. And many of us, all of us, have been hurt by words that we've heard that were spoken to us in ways that didn't respect who we were, didn't see who we were, that made us believe things about ourselves that were not true and even harmful. So words are very important. It's not accidental that one of the books of the New Testament says that in the beginning was the Word. And in Buddhist teaching, right speech is one of the steps on the Eightfold Noble Path. Speaking the truth, not speaking harmfully or harshly, not speaking untruths. Words are very important. This bracelet that I'm wearing was given to me in a beautiful place here in British Columbia called Haida Gwaii, which are some islands inhabited since time immemorial by indigenous people. And I went there to give a trauma workshop not long ago, and they gave me this bracelet as a gift. And the meaning of this carved picture is, these words matter. So my intention here is that the words that I utter will make a difference to you and your life and to your present and your future. As to who am I to be doing this and how did I come to do this, that has to do with my own personal history, and it also has to do with what I've learned as a physician and as a healer and as a teacher and a writer, and most fundamentally, just as a human being. I'd like to read you a poem by one of the great Sufi poets. His name is Hafiz, and it's about words. And it's also about how we know what we know. Because here in the Western world, we tend to think of knowledge as being up in the head and intellectual. And here's what Hafiz says about words. He says, someone should start laughing. That's the name of the poem. I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, how are you? I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, what is God? If you think that truth can be known from words, if you think that the sun and the ocean can pass through that tiny opening called the mouth, oh, someone should start laughing. Someone should start laughing wildly now. In other words, there's much more to truth and reality than the words of the intellect can possibly understand and convey. And so what I know, at least what I believe I know, is not just from intellectual education. In fact, that's probably the least of it. It's important, but it comes from life experience. And how we know what we know comes to us through different portals. One of them is the intellect, and that's important and not to be discounted. But we also know with the heart, and we also know with the gut. And these ways of knowing are all connected. So if you ask me, how do I know what I know? Well, as best I can tell, it's a combination of those three forms of knowledge. And I hope those portals are open in you or can be opened in you. In fact, I know they can be. When I was a year old, a doctor came to see me. I was very ill. It was a wartime Hungary. I was separated from my mother. I was having severe cough, and I was with people that were almost strangers to me. And I will not tell you the whole story, but the doctor said that she had never seen, this is a pediatrician, that she had never seen such fear, such terror in the eyes of an individual as she had witnessed in my eyes. So I began life with a lot of fear, a lot of terror, and the shadows of that, I have to confess, own, are still with me sometimes. I've had to come to terms with those shadows. I've had to come to terms with the imprints of those experiences as they affected my life. So much of the learning has just been living and being curious about what are those shadows about and how do they affect us, not just me, but human beings in general. So learning has been one of living. Then there's my intellectual education, both as an undergraduate, studying history and literature, and then as a physician in the medical education and my medical practice. And it was in my medical practice, working with chronically ill people, children, elderly people, dying people, highly addicted people over a certain period of years, that I learned that what they had taught me in medical school was not nearly sufficient to explain why people suffer, why they get ill, why they get challenged by mental health conditions or physical illness. So I've had to move beyond what they taught me, use what they taught me, but move beyond it. And I've learned that there's much more to health and illness and recovery than simply what they taught me from a very narrow scientific point of view. And what is interesting is that when I say from a scientific point of view, they only taught me a very narrow segment of the science, because there's a lot of science now that shows that the Western propensity to separate mind from the body, to separate individuals from the environment, to separate the individual from the unity that life and this whole universe represents, is unscientific. So science has shown how unscientific the narrowness of the Western medical approach actually is. And nobody had taught me that. So first I had to kind of intuit it on my own, and then I discovered there's all this beautiful scientific research validating a broader, more holistic point of view. So it is that broader, more holistic point of view, or I wish to say more, holistic point of view, that I'll be wanting to convey to you during this masterclass, and to alert you to the possibilities of healing and recovery within yourself. And let me conclude by saying a couple of words about the meaning of healing. The word healing in my own native or my mother tongue of Hungarian literally means wholeness. It means wholeness. In English, the word healing also comes from an ancient Anglo-Saxon word for wholeness. So healing literally means health, literally means wholeness. And where the trauma comes in, and I'll be speaking about that in one of the lessons, is that it fragments that wholeness. So we become disconnected from ourselves. And when you look at the word recovery, that's another interesting word. Speaking of words, what does it mean to recover something? It means to find it. And what is it that we find when we recover? We find that connection that we lost in the first place. So recovery means really finding ourselves, which is the intention of this masterclass. And wholeness, healing, that's the other intention, and they mean the same thing. So again, welcome, and let's begin the journey. Just a bit of orientation as to how this is going to go. I'll be giving talks, as I just have. Then we'll be introducing exercises. Some of those exercises will be thought exercises. Some might be spoken. Some will be written. And we'll give you the guidance and the directions in every case. So the masterclass will consist of teaching and then exercises that you're meant to do for yourself as we go on. Thank you.
All right. So as a finish, I wanted to share a little bit of a story for you for at the end of this incredible healing days. And the ones that are here are really the bravest of the bravest. So I want to share something with you. Is that I was on trip in Rome last month, and I stood at the Forum, which is a perfectly conserved city that's about 2,000 year old. And I couldn't believe, these things have perfectly survived 2,000 years, right there. They're incredibly well preserved. And so I looked it up and I discovered something incredible that I wanted to share with you. Is that the stone that these monuments are made from is made from a rare mineral that actually heals itself when it's battered from the rain and the wind. So there's something like of calcium deposits known as lime clasts. And when there's cracks in the stone and they're exposed to the water and the wind, well, these lime clasts react chemically and they seal the crack over time. And that's why these monuments stay in time. And so why I'm telling you that is that this is really what we try to do in this masterclass, right? We try to do something intentionally that brings you the tools so that whatever comes to you, whatever difficulty comes to you, you can use these obstacles and these difficulties to actually heal yourself. And so that you can have this property of this stone and actually heal yourself with good things, but also with bad things, right? And we want to give you all the tools right there in your pocket so that the hardship also can actually make you stronger. So I think the conclusion of all this and these 3 days is that healing, we've seen it with all the speakers. They all said that healing starts from a choice, and a choice of faith that I can get better, that there is hope, that it will take time, it will take effort, right? It's not going to come like this. It's going to take time, it's going to take effort. But with the right guidance, you're going to have the guidance of Gabor, you're going to have the guidance of other speakers on Mentor Show. You're going to have the guidance of the specialized coaches and specialized psychotherapists that you will be in private sessions with. Well, with all that, with the right guidance, you can take that choice and actually you can make it and you can heal. All right, so that's the message I want to end with you today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us. I hope you liked it. I hope you got something from it. And